Dark Knight gang in this thing. Gang! You already know what's up. Today I'm going to do a video from the infographic show. This one right here is titled The Werewolf, World's Worst Serial Killer. Y'all requested it, don't trip, you know I got y'all. First off, I love the infographic show. They have a great channel. Shout out to them. Shout out to y'all. Y'all know I mess with y'all heavy. Everybody's been listening to my music. That means so much to me, bro. I'm chasing my dream and y'all are messing with it. And bro, that right there, I don't know, it just means a lot to me, you feel me? I'm dropping more new songs coming soon. I'm probably gonna drop a new song this weekend, and then I'm dropping another song on Halloween. They all about to be fire. But anyway, we about to see the world's worst serial killer. I'm ready to hop on into this, man. Y'all know y'all my bros. Y'all know I love y'all. Everybody have a great day today. I'm sending nothing but positive vibes and positive energy, bro. Let's go.
It's a bitterly cold night in the Siberian city of Angarsk. Bars are emptying out. People say their goodbyes and diverge in the snow-filled streets. A woman, her name is Christina, crosses the road ponderously. She's had a few too many drinks. Shivering, she takes her scarf and wraps it tightly around her neck. She's about to come face to face with the werewolf, a man who will soon become known as Russia's worst ever serial killer, and perhaps one of the most demented and cruel men that ever walked the earth. He pulls up beside her in his police car, just a concerned officer of the law helping out a slightly drunk, obviously cold female in the middle of the night.
Oh, I get it. He's a werewolf. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He acts like he's a cop, or he might be a cop, but he's really a serial killer. Watch.
The maniac gives her a reassuring
smile.
smile.
Me, I be thinking,
Christina gets in the back of the car, not knowing she's sitting just inches away from an array of instruments of torture. What we've just described is based on a true story. In fact, it's based on many true stories that have happened between the years of 1992 and 2010. This serial killer was so prolific, it's hard to imagine he had much time to do anything else but murder. He was so brutal in the way he murdered, it's hard to fathom how his mind worked. What's shocking is that he was never caught during the time he committed the murders. He almost got away with all of his utterly depraved crimes. He was a cop, after all, and by all accounts, a great father and husband. So what do we know about Popkov the Kid? Did he have some of the traits of some serial killers to be? Childhood abuse, extreme trauma, hurting animals, arson, or substance abuse? We can't say for sure, but we know that he was born in Angarsk on March 7th, 1964. There's little said about his childhood, although he's claimed at times that he suffered abuse by his mother. One thing's for sure, he had a problem with women. A big problem. We know that this bad lieutenant, the so-called cannibal cop, married a woman named Elena, and we know they had a daughter named Ekaterina. To them, Popkov was a doting father and a loving husband. He was kind, dependable, sweet, although much like America's notorious Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, he lived a double life. He'd be at his daughter's school musical performance one minute and tearing a woman to shreds the next. Popkov killed his daughter's music teacher, by the way. He was a career cop with a family. He had a wife who called him a perfect husband and father, and who after his arrest refused at first to believe he was the killer. He was the guy next door, the guy you appreciated living next door to, because he was a trusted member of law enforcement that could be called upon in times of need. But something snapped when he was 28 years old. 1992, the year he committed his first murder. Why did he do it? It's a difficult question, but it seems it was because he suspected his wife had cheated on him. One day he found 2 used condoms in their trash, and this sent him over the edge. He wanted to get back at loose women rather than hurt his own wife. After his arrest, he just said this: I had some reasons to suspect her. I'm not looking for excuses, but this was the impetus for my future. He started killing and doing it in the most horrific ways. On October 28, 1998, 20-year-old Tatiana Martinova and 19-year-old Yulia Kuprikova went out to a concert. They didn't return home. Their bodies were found the next day, torn apart, showing signs of abuse. They'd been drunk, looking like they were having a good time. For Popkov, this meant they were promiscuous, not womanly in the way he'd like to see women act, and so he raped and slaughtered them.
So if he was a thought, he gonna kill you.
As a missionary type of killer, he told himself he was purging his small part of Siberia of bad people. It's the kind of excuse many of these types of killers give so they can derive thrills from their unbounded sadism. This is what he once said about the women he murdered. They abandoned their husbands and children at home and went out to party as if it was the last day on earth. Indeed, at times he would play a game of live or die. He'd get them in his police car, a lot of 4x4, and ask them if A, they wanted to return home, or B, carry on the party somewhere else. If they chose answer B, he'd take them to a secluded place and do his worst. He once said the women he chose were usually the ones that showed him no fear. To him, they were the most immoral. If they wanted to drink with him, God forbid, sleep with him, he killed them. Not all women became victims, he said, but those of a certain negative behavior I had a desire to teach and punish. Most of his victims were just women having a good night out, enjoying the springtime.
So any woman that was having a good time, you drunk, he'll pick you up and say, "You want me to take you home? Or you want to continue to have a good time?" And if they say, "Let's continue to have a good time," he gonna kill them because he thought they didn't have any morals. This dude.
Life. As we said, one of his victims was Katarina's music school teacher. When his daughter came home and asked him for money to go toward the teacher's funeral, he gladly gave some to her, helping to pay for your victim's funeral. Over the years, mutilated bodies were being found in Angarsk in the Irkutsk Oblast region, but the police never managed to secure a lead. They were, after all, seeking one of their own. A man who knew very well how to evade arrest. It didn't make matters any easier that his murders may have covered some 2,423 square miles. It wasn't easy catching him. For 18 years, the bodies piled up. One time, the police found a woman whose head was missing. Another time, the victim's heart had been torn out. He later denied that one. Some were stabbed over 100 times. Some victims were covered in bite marks. This was a monster. Make no mistake. What seemed evident was the man used a number of tools to kill and mutilate his victims, and we now know that these tools were baseball bats, screwdrivers, knives, axes, a hammer, and of course, his own snapping incisors, hence the name, the Werewolf. During the 1990s, the cases piled up, but there were also 2 cases in which women managed to escape Popkov's grasp. They each gave statements to the Russian police, but still he wasn't caught. He could have been so easily. When he murdered 35-year-old Maria Lashena and 37-year-old Lilia Pashkovsaya, he made a mistake. After ditching the bodies, his police ID fell out. He went back to get the ID. It was still there, but so was a woman still breathing. I was shocked by the fact that she was still alive. I finished her with a shovel, he later testified. Then there was Svetlana Misevichus, a 17-year-old survivor who Popkov saw walking alone one evening. She said the day was bitterly cold, and so when a police officer pulled up close to her to offer her a ride, she was grateful and got in. Her heart sank and her pulse raced when Popkov drove past the turn to her house. He just kept going, driving toward the wilderness. The next thing she remembered was him smashing her head against a tree, for what she later said felt like an eternity. She was naked, cold, bloodied, semi-conscious, but she still managed to get away from him. She ran and ran, a naked girl in the snow. But unbelievably, when she screamed at passers-by, no one helped her. His dreaded car caught up with her. He got out and beat her senseless, leaving her for dead. The next day, she woke up in a morgue. In her own words, "I felt so cold, I woke up, sat down, and spotted a label on the toe of a corpse next to me." Later, she identified Popkov in a photograph, but after questioning, police took the matter no further. His wife provided a solid alibi, which of course was a lie. Misievichus and one other victim are the only people to survive a Popkov attack. Her hair turned gray and she developed a stutter after her ordeal. Such was the shock. Not only that, she had some brain damage, frostbite, and she was put on medication for syphilis. After the attack, she developed what's called a conversion disorder. The psychological trauma led to motor disturbances and she couldn't walk very well. She recovered, but on seeing Popkov in court some years later, her legs failed her again. This is an important part of the story, because Misievichus was a virgin before that attack. What that meant was that Popkov was infected with syphilis from someone he had killed. We know that he got out of the police force
He completely ruined her life, bro. And she was young. She was a virgin, 17, young. He gave her syphilis. She developed all type of mental issues. That's, bro.
But the murders didn't stop then.
This dude, they need to kill this dude.
Security for Angarsk Oil and Chemical Company.
I know some people don't believe in the death penalty.
At least another 2 years. That's what police originally thought, anyway. It was believed he stopped killing in the year 2000 because his syphilis infection had made him impotent. That's one hypothesis, but it must be remembered that he didn't assault all his victims. We should also say that more recent reports state that he carried on killing until the year 2010. What we do know is that in 2012, police were onto something. They discovered that close to many of the places where the bodies had been dumped, there were tire tracks. And often those tracks belonged to a Lada Niva 4x4. This kind of vehicle was often used by cops in Siberia. So investigators asked 3,500 retired and current policemen for DNA samples. It was all downhill for him from there. He stopped killing, though he'd gotten away with it. And then one day there was a knock on the door. How many people did he kill? In his own words, "I can't exactly say. I didn't keep a record." First, he was convicted of 22 murders and he went down for them. But then there were many more cases. In fact, he confessed to 59 more murders, the ones he could remember doing. He took cops to some of the scenes of the crime where he dumped the body and gave them all the details he could. Things all added up. At 83 murders, he is said to be the worst serial killer in modern times in Russia. The worst of all time was a wealthy 18th century countess and peasant killer, Saltechika, Daria Nikolaevna Saltykova, who confessed to 138 murders. His tally makes him the third worst in the world, behind Colombian Luis the Beast Garvito, who murdered 138 children, and another Colombian, Pedro Lopez, the monster of the Andes, who killed 110 people. Both men are suspected to have killed many more. We should also say the former British doctor Harold Shipman killed at least 219 people, although medical murders are sometimes said to be a different class of killing. Popkov, the family man and the devil next door, was described by many people after he was given a life sentence. One investigator said of him, "He is charming and sociable. Women like him, but he's a beast inside. And it's always hard to fight a werewolf."
That's how
One person that worked with him on the police force said she nearly choked on her food when she saw his face in the newspaper. She said he seemed like a decent man. He liked to run biathlons. He was even praised for shooting a rapist while on the job. Another person said he was the life and soul of the party. So let that be a warning to us all.
Great video, interesting video for sure. I've never heard of this before. This guy was a cop picking up women, killing them. He killed 83 women. Bro, you never know who can be a serial killer. There might be a serial killer next door. I might be a serial killer and you will never know. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm kidding. Let me stop. But anyway, this was a really good video from the Infographic Show. Thank you guys so much for requesting it. Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how psychopaths always have a reason behind what they do. And they, in their mind, it's justified. Well, I don't know if all of them are like that, but for the most part, most of them are like that. In their minds, they justify it and they think it's okay. But it's like, bro, your brain is just screwed up. Let me know what you guys thought down in the comments. I'm gonna see y'all next time. You already know I'm dropping more reactions right after this. Peace.